Hello, and welcome to the Jamie and Stephen Show. Let's talk movies, music, and magic. We're stepping into the world of Greek mythology and what makes a true hero. Yes, it's Disney's Hercules.
Honey, you mean Hercules. My man.
Oh, yes.
There are going to be quotes plenty, I'm guessing, on this one.
Quotes, you mean singing. So, Hercules, yes, released June 1997. It's an hour and 33 minutes. And it's got 7.3 stars on IMDb.
Blasphemy.
I know. Right. IMDb synopsis. This is actually quite accurate. The son of Zeus and Hera is stripped of his immortality as an infant and must become a true hero in order to reclaim it.
Nothing like mine.
Oh, go on then. We're all dying to know.
After being lumbered with the worst job in the family business, Hades has to deal with employees that do not finish their tasks, fail to attract new partners, or try to get out of legal binding contracts, only to have the boss's son come in and ruin his big plans. He's not the villain. He's not.
I read that Hades is technically the oldest villain.
Yes.
So, directors. Our favourite duo.
Yes.
Ron Clements and John Musker. Fourth film, Basil, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and now this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Writers. They also are credited as writers for this.
Yeah. So when I go into mine, I'll go into.
There was a few. Yeah, Don McHenry and Bob Shaw, and they both wrote for Bug's Life, and they were writers on Seinfeld. And also Irene Mackey, who we've heard of before. So she goes on to do Brave. She's done The Lion King. She's done Hunchback. I mean, yeah.
Jeez.
And then I've got Can Callian. They were writers on a writer on Pocahontas, Treasure Planet, and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Well, we won't hold any of that against them. So originally the pitch was done by an animator called Joe Hader, who pitched the story, who pitched the characters, the whole idea of doing a Hercules thing. Once that was accepted, he was pushed to one side, and Clements and Musker came in and wrote the script. And then when it was decided that they're enjoying it, they're going to stay on the project, McHenry, Shaw, and Mackey are brought on to revise the script. The script is then revised again to add more humour to it, and revised again to add more storyline into certain parts, and then it's revised again with more humour, but that is mainly because of James Woods. Yeah.
Well, I watched, which I text you about, on YouTube. So it's the Disney Expo of 2017, and they did a 20th anniversary celebrating Hercules. So it was like over an hour, and it was John Musker and Ron Clements, and they like talked about loads of stuff for the making, and they said that they came on to this in 1993. So it was after Aladdin.
Are you stealing facts?
Oh, sorry. Well,
No,
it makes a change.
You're entitled to, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, they wanted to do Treasure Planet. But they said that they knew that what they had available to them at the time, they weren't going to get what they envisioned on screen. They were given a list of other projects that were being considered, and they chose this because they liked the idea of going to a world that Disney hadn't really explored since Fantasia.
Yeah. I mentioned John Hader being this was in 1992. 30 animators were given 2 minutes each to pitch ideas for the film, for films. So
Is
it
this
was
one of
very,
the gong meetings?
yeah, at this pitch, one of the ideas came up was the Odyssey. And it was basically, oh, we should have a look at this. We should go into it. We should. It's been picked. It's like, yep, that's fine. Haydar then pitched Hercules, but basically thought, well, we're not going to do two Greek mythology films, so it's probably not going to work. We're probably not going to get this. However, his pitch was approved on 1.5 pages of outline. So that's all that existed of Hercules at this point, 1.5 pages. However, at that point, they had no further involvement with this project.
Okay.
Work began on the Odyssey, but that fell through. It stopped. Ron Clements and Musker basically said, oh, look how successful Aladdin was. Can we do this one called Treasure Planet? And that's when Katzenberg said, no, I want a commercial hit.
Okay.
And I'm told that you need to look at the other ideas that are in development. They looked at Hercules because of the way it was kind of put forward. It was put forward as a superhero film.
Uh-huh.
Both huge comic book fans. They basically said, we will do that one.
Yeah, they say that they're fans on that expo.
They based their first script on like the screwball comedies of old Hollywood. And they wanted to incorporate a lot of 90s pop culture in that as well.
Yeah.
They looked at Greek mythology and decided that it was too adult. So that's when they kind of came on board. You then have the next person to come on board was a British cartoonist called Gerald Scarfe. Now,
Yeah.
I know that he did the opening sketches for Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister.
Yeah.
UK TV show. He also did the artwork for Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Yeah, The Wall. Yeah.
And what I found interesting is he was actually married to Jane Asher, an actress who's been in things like the original Alfie and Henry VIII and his Six Wives.
Yeah.
But she's also the president of the National Autistic Society.
Oh my God.
And when you'll see her, you'll see a picture of her and you'll be like, I know who that is.
Right. Okay.
Gerald Scarfe came on as a production designer, and that included doing character designs for all of the characters.
Yeah. I actually watched documentary. He allowed, I can't remember if it was BBC or Channel 4, and yeah, and he invited them in to his studio where he was doing designs for Disney, and it ended up being obviously about him and his work. And yeah, wow, like how quick he can draw the ideas and just like the shapes just that come from a line.
Yeah.
You know, like he starts at one point and he literally does like the swirl or this curved line. And then the next minute he adds an arm and then adds like the eyes and everything. Before I know it, I'm looking at Hades.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate that it was actually the design of the film that was one of the criticisms, because I actually really like the design of.
Yeah, it makes it stand out.
Yeah, it just looks really, really good.
Well, see the Gerard Scarfe. He was brought in because of Musker. So Musker, John Musker is from Chicago, and he said that when he studied art at school, he fell in love with Scarfe's Time magazine covers.
Yeah.
And while he was an up and coming student filmmaker, or, you know, they did meet, and he was able to tell him what a fan he was of his work. You know, they became sort of, I don't know if they would say friends, but you know, it was like they kept in touch. When this came about, he said to Ron, "Oh my God, I think I know who we should hire for the design of the film. This guy will be perfect." And yeah, in the expo, they did a video call with him because he was in San Francisco with an exhibit based on his Pink Floyd artwork.
Yeah.
And he said that he rented a house in Santa Barbara and Disney came to look at his work that he had done for the film. And he said it was the most scariest and most vulnerable he'd ever felt, because he says he'd never allowed anyone to sort of see early sketches of his work like that before. Like, I know obviously they still put their Disney spin on the drawings, you know, in the animation, but like the curl of the chin, the curl on the knees, the noses, you know, it is different to any other Disney look.
What I liked when watching it is if there's a little bit of dust anywhere, the dust goes in that kind of curl.
Yes.
I've not realised is those curls are the Greek pattern.
Yeah.
Kind of square within a square within a square kind of
Yeah.
thing. And it was like this just well, we'll get onto my opinion later.
Okay. Right, cast.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start with Hercules.
Honey, you mean Hercules?
Yeah.
Why?
So young Hercules.
Yes.
His speaking voice is Josh Keaton. He has done loads of voice work.
Mm-hmm.
He has been Peter Parker, and he's been in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's been in Lego stuff, and he's done loads of gaming voices as well. He was going to sing, but they felt that his voice wasn't musically enough. It wasn't Broadway-ish. It was more like a pop star voice. So then they brought in Roger Bart.
Yes.
To be the singing voice. They said in the expo actually that this was his first sort of big film role because he came from Broadway.
The Broadway baby.
Yes. And he just won a Tony when he got this role. People will know him as the crazy stalker pharmacist guy from Desperate Housewives.
That's where we know him from in our house.
He's also been in Blacklist, The Good Fight, and Grace and Frankie, among loads of other stuff. And then grown-up Hercules is played by the lovely Tate Donovan, who people will know as Josh.
Yes.
And he plays Jimmy Cooper in the OC. And he's currently in Blue Bloods. Oh, he was also in the Rocket Man movie, the Elton John movie.
Well, just off tangent, but at the time he was in Friends, he was dating Jennifer Aniston.
Yes.
But they broke up and he'd already been contracted to play Joshua.
Oh, really?
They had to play boyfriend and girlfriend on Friends, even though they'd literally just broke up. Like,
wow, that's amazing because you couldn't tell.
No. But then they're both professionals.
Well, that just shows they've not allowed their, personal lives to interfere because you couldn't tell. You genuinely think that she is got this massive crush on him and that,
Yeah.
I mean, that scene where he answers the door and she goes, I do. She's in the But yeah, and Tate was in that expo again. Sorry, I'm probably going to mention this expo throughout this whole episode. But oh my God, he is so funny because they apologized to him for not allowing him to show them his singing voice because they said later they found out that he's actually in an Irish band.
Would be with that surname.
Yes. And so, well, you would know, Stephen.
I know.
That's going to be your future surname.
It is not.
And yeah, so like they ended up having this running gag throughout the expo about the fact that he was never asked to like show his singing voice. And he was really funny. So yeah, really nice guy.
Guess who else was auditioned for the role? Donny Osmond.
Oh yes, I did write that down.
Oh, I stole one of yours. But his voice was considered too deep.
I know, which is weird.
Yeah. Supervising animator for Hercules, adult Hercules, that is Andreas Deja.
Yes.
He is the only character in the film which is called by his Roman name. Hercules is the Roman version of
Okay.
that, but everyone else keeps their Greek name.
Right.
When Hercules is made human, his skin coloring is duller than all of the rest of the mortals.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. And I didn't think it was an actual thing because I'm colorblind for those that don't know. The only other fact that I had on Hercules was there is actually evidence to suggest that Hercules was a real person,
Oh.
not a myth or a legend, but a strong man.
Uh-huh.
And he is potentially the founder of the Olympics.
Wow.
So, bit of history for
Yeah.
that's it, Meg.
Okay. So now Meg or Megara. Yeah, Meg. So yeah, voiced by Susan Egan, who was the original Belle on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And she's famous for making Belle her own. So she didn't do Belle like she is in the animated film. Apparently, she said she sort of personalized her and made her very much like who she is in real life. She's also played Maria in Sound of Music.
Oh, wrong Maria.
On stage. Yeah, that Maria, the nun Maria. She's also played Molly Brown in The Unsinkable Molly Brown on stage. And she's played Millie in Thoroughly Modern Millie on stage, which is another Julie Andrews film role.
Oh, she's after someone's job. When she turns up in Princess Diaries, there's.
But yeah, and yeah, she said that Meg, the character, is also very much like what she is in real life as well. So she loved playing the role. She said she could just sort of almost be herself.
Well, for me, I don't think I have ever disliked Alan Menken. However, Menken blocked Egan from the role. He said, no, I know you're performing Belle, you cannot perform this character.
Oh.
Because at this point, ever since Beauty and the Beast, she had auditioned for a role in every Disney animated film up till this point from Beauty and the Beast. So she got herself an audition and she knocked it out of the park. They did the animation test based on her voice.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the point where they were doing animation based on the character, based on her voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if it was 7 or 9 months. I think it was 9. But 9 months after she got the audition, bear in mind they'd already animated a lot of it, she was told she got the part. So I'm not saying that Menken did it anything wrong, because I don't believe he's a horrible person. But in that point, it's like we almost didn't get her as Meg. She was playing Belle while she was making Hercules.
Yeah, because it was doing a run in Los Angeles.
Yep, and during that run, she broke her foot on stage.
Oh, was it tripping over that bloody clock in Candlestick?
And when she came back into the studio to continue making Hercules, the animator of Meg drew a picture of Meg with a broken toe with a little caption above it saying, "That's the last time I get Herc to rub my feet." The other thing with Meg is she gets the last word in the film, but not how you think. So right at the end of the credits, there is a line written that said, "It's been a real slice," which is Meg's line in the film when she first meets Hercules and then walks off.
Yeah, because she does that.
It's a
Flips
salute.
her hand, salutes them, yeah.
She's the first heroine since Belle to have the same actor for both speaking and singing parts.
Yeah.
But her hair is drawn that no matter what angle she's in, her hair will remain the same. And that is inspired by Mickey Mouse's ears.
Yeah, I did think that when I was watching, I was like, God, that hair doesn't change. It doesn't move. Like it just goes from one side to the other, but it's exactly the same.
Anyway, that's Meg. That's Meg.
Okay. Phil?
Yes.
Yeah. Philatites
Yes.
is voiced by Danny DeVito.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for those who don't know who we're talking about, he was in Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Romancing the Stone with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner, Matilda, and he was Penguin in Tim Burton's Batman Begins.
So as I say, he was the 90s.
Oh, yeah. 80s, 90s.
I've got a few facts. The character was written for Danny DeVito, and he turned it down. So
well, I've written that he wouldn't audition. You know, they went to him and said, yeah, we've got this character and we think we're perfect. Will you come and audition? And he wouldn't audition.
Fair enough. You shouldn't have to audition Danny DeVito, but there we are. So after that happened, they also auditioned, and I had to write a few of these down.
Yeah, I didn't write loads. I just picked like 5.
I've got 4. You've beat me.
Oh, okay.
So Ed Asner?
Edward Asner.
Asner, yeah. Or Mr. Fredrickson in Up. Red Buttons.
Yes.
Hoagie.
From Pete's Dragon.
Yes. The other 2 I've got is Ernest Burgoyne. Basically, as soon as I found out he was Mermaid Man in the SpongeBob franchise, I just wrote that down, stopped looking afterwards.
Oh, okay.
And then there's Dick Lasseter, who has mainly done theatre work. I mean, his theatre work is extensive.
Right, okay.
But you said you had others.
Yeah, Bob Hoskins. Yeah, Bob Hoskins, Joe Pesci.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Martin Scorsese.
Really?
I know. Yeah, apparently there was a massive list. And I just wrote many, many others because if I'd written them all down, Red Buttons was the last.
Yes.
And have you got the quote that he apparently said?
No, I've got an amalgamation. If you've got the actual quote, you read it.
He said, he turned round after and said, I know what you're going to do. You're going to give this part to Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
They apparently went to the set of Matilda.
They paid for a pasta dinner.
Yes. And yeah, and he signed there. So in the end, he never had to audition. Bit of a risk, but he obviously wasn't that fussed. I mean, don't get me wrong, like when I watched the making of, he seemed really joyful with doing the part and, you know, loved the character. But no, he clearly wasn't really that fussed about doing a voice work. I suppose he felt he didn't really need to do it.
And also at this point, although obviously we know that before Hercules, all these big films came out, but at the time that he was being asked and this was being looked at, which is 93, 94, your really only big hitters have been Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. So would you really be that bothered when your film at that point repertoire included things like Twins? So yeah, I can understand him. Like maybe if he'd been asked in 97 when it was released, it'd have been a bit of a different attitude.
Well, I mean, Matilda came out in 96. So they would have been filming that maybe in 95.
Yeah. The character is, the mannerisms and things are based on Grumpy from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Well, it's the same animator that animated the genie, Eric Goldberg.
And the actual appearance is based on Danny DeVito.
But do you know what? See, when I was looking at it, I was paying attention to his face. And did you notice, see the way Phil's beard is with the little curl under the chin? Very similar to the genie.
You mean his goatee?
Yeah. And then it comes under the chin and it curls. Oh, were you trying to make a joke there? Because he's half goat.
It's a goatee on a goat.
Okay. I could definitely see
similarities between.
Yes.
Although Phil sees Hades when he's talking with Meg, and although Hades says what's got his goat, the two never interact in the film.
That's right.
And Phil's also based on basically after the Greek tragedies had been done, they were redone, and these always included a little comedy sidekick character, which Phil is an homage to that. Yeah.
Yes.
Next.
Next. Hades.
He ruled the underworld.
He ran the underworld.
One of us doesn't have a sore throat and can do it.
Honestly, I think this guy is a legend. Like I grew up with him, and he was definitely one of my favorite actors when I was younger. But yes, James Woods. Well, the last thing which I wrote down that I probably saw him in was White House Down.
He's in Family Guy a lot.
Yeah, well, he does voice work. This was his first voice work, and then he goes on to do more later. So another few he's been in: Once Upon a Time in America, which is an old gangster film, and Robert De Niro's in that as well. Virgin Suicides, he was the dad in that. He's also in John Q with Denzel Washington, and one of my favorites, Riding in Cars with Boys, which is Drew Barrymore, and he plays her dad. Well, they're all good. Virgin Suicides is a bit disturbing, but otherwise they're all good.
Well, Hades, some of the animation style, especially the face and mannerisms, may have been based on Katzenberg.
Yes.
Now, when I found that out, and I don't mean to be horrible about anyone, but yes, especially the teeth. I saw it. I saw that.
And the high cheekbones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do get it.
And when the smoke goes, the fact that like he's bald, the head shape was very similar. Yes, no, I can see it.
Yeah. He is the only one of the deities, so the gods, that does not have a glowing aura. Instead, he has smoke appearing from his cloak.
Well, he's, the opposite end. He's under. He ran the underworld.
He got the raw end of that deal, and all he wanted to do was just, even it out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Danny DeVito that suggested getting Jack Nicholson involved.
Yeah.
Nicholson basically said, he was offered $500,000 to do the voice work.
Mm-hmm.
To which he replied, I'll do it, but for between 10 and $15 million on 50% of all of Hades' merchandise profits.
Yeah.
So Disney basically said, we're not doing that with the profit, and we are definitely not offering you 10 to 15, but we'll offer you a good amount. He was being too much at that point.
I know he's Jack Nicholson, but still, it's like, come on.
Yeah, no. Then, in autumn 1994, John Lithgow, he was Lord Farquaad. You really are a Farquaad in Shrek. He is George Henderson, the dad in Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, I used to love that.
He's appeared in Third Rock from the Sun. He plays Arthur in Dexter. He was also Winston Churchill in The Crown.
Yes, which he was good in.
However, they couldn't make it work, so by August 1995, he was released from the role.
Apparently he'd done all the dialogue.
And they just couldn't get it to work.
Apparently they said that it was a bit flat.
What we got to remember is he obviously did a villain in Lord Farquaad.
Yeah, which is funny because, like, he's really funny in that.
About 5 years apart.
I know.
But all of these actors that I'm going to mention next and Lithgow were all told to do it straight-laced, straight acting.
Yeah, like he had to be menacing.
I would say that might be boring. Other people that either auditioned or were considered for the role, we've got James Coburn, who is Henry J. Waternoose in Monsters Inc. We've got Kevin Spacey, House of Cards. Phil Hartman, he plays Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz and all of those characters in The Simpsons. There's Michael Ironside, who played Jester in Top Gun. Martin Landau, a very handsome man in his youth. I know him from Space 1999, which he appeared in with his wife, Barbara Bain. Jerry Lewis, who was a comedian and who was the original Nutty Professor.
Yes.
Willem Dafoe.
Yes.
Who played Gil in Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
And David Bowie, And
I know. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God.
if you don't know who David Bowie is, then just turn off the podcast because I'm done with you. So,
And again, like in that expo, they mention that Jack Nicholson, when he came in to read and sort of meet and see sketches and whatnot, and while they were negotiating, he brought his daughter, who was 3 at the time, from his, I don't know, 3rd marriage or however many times he's been married. They brush it off and just say that it didn't work out. They don't mention anything about his high demands. Because obviously they didn't want to be disrespectful because, you know.
When James
Well, the fact is, you've got the opposite end of the scale because, like, James Woods offers to give up his money.
Yeah, he's like, he wanted to play this as a used car salesman.
Yes.
And you know what? Yeah.
They showed footage of some of his, like, ad-libbing.
Yeah, most of it is ad-lib.
Oh my God, like, how he just comes up and how he can still talk, but keep you watching him. It was to do with the scene where he spits the worm out of he's taking the, all he's doing is describing, but in a very funny way, the lengths an actor has to go to do the sound of spitting a worm out. And like Ron and John said before they showed the clip, this went on for over 20 minutes, but we've trimmed it down to 2. He was definitely the right person for this. And I can't picture anybody else that, like, just completely different to what at the time I had seen him do before. And I think that's why I just enjoy him doing it so much. And yeah, that whole Carl salesman, it works.
Who's next?
Right, Zeus and Hera. So Zeus is voiced by Rip Torn, who people will know from Men in Black, The Man Who Fell to Earth. He's been in Law and Order and Chicago Hope. And Hera is voiced by Samantha Egger, who's British actress, who is known for being in Dr. Dolittle. She was also in LA Law and, get this, Star Trek Generation.
Hey.
And she plays Picard's wife.
Oh, does she?
Yes.
You know what? Such a long time.
So she got given a day to voice a character for Disney.
Yes. Do you know who Rip Torn is married to?
Yes. I can't remember her name, but it's Medusa.
It's Madame Medusa, Geraldine Page.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because for the role of Zeus includes Gregory Peck.
I know.
There's a lot of handsome people in this. I've wrote To Kill a Mockingbird because I think actually you should have seen that. I've seen that film and I don't watch films.
You would have at least seen a clip of it.
Yeah. And I've watched that film and I've read the book as well. So
oh, you've watched that film?
Yeah, I've watched that one. And who else?
Was it, is it Patrick Stewart you were going to mention?
It was Patrick Stewart. So Samantha Egger could have played not only the husband of Patrick Stewart in Star Trek, but could have also played it in Hercules. But
I know. Again, they wouldn't release him.
Right, the thing is with this is I don't think it's got anything to do with Star Wars.
Star Trek. Oh, blasphemy, Stephen.
I know. Even the cat's looking at me like. Like
You're swearing now. That's it. The Star Wars fans are coming at you.
Yeah, that's it now.
And the Trekkies.
I am cancelled, so I can say what I want now. Nothing worse is going to happen.
Well, I mean, when I read, he actually got the part of Zeus, but yeah, they just weren't releasing him. That's what I read, that he had got the part, but he could not get out of something to do with Star Trek Generation.
Going back to the myth of Zeus, there's different stories, but basically Zeus sleeps willingly, I might add in one version, with a mortal. That is the reason why Hercules is half mortal, half god. And the mum, her husband, bring up Hercules as the foster parents in the same happens in the film.
Okay.
Then Hera hates Hercules because basically he's the illegitimate child.
Yeah.
So punishes him throughout his life. She also sends him on random tasks and things like that. She sends him mental and he kills his wife and children because of that. She was Zeus's sister.
Yeah, I did read that there was, yes, this is the incest.
Yeah, so basically Zeus is the father of all of gods in this film. That's how it's seen. He's the lead one. He's the youngest of the three. Hades is the older. Poseidon is King Triton's dad.
Yeah.
The way that the Greek mythology would have played it would be that Zeus either had it off with his sister, had it off with his daughters, or cheated on his sister with a multitude of women.
Including a mortal.
Including a mortal. So we will leave that for Jerry Springer.
Okay. Next, right, the narrator, albeit a very, 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 very tiny part. So it's Charlton Heston. He is obviously known for playing Ben-Hur, and he's also in the Ten Commandments. He's also in the Hamlet film, directed and starring Kenneth Branagh, and he's in an episode of Friends. Yeah, a famous actor. John and Ron had a really funny story. They started the expo with this. So like when they got Charlton Heston in, and obviously got given his 5 lines. The last line, which is, you go girl. He so when he read these lines and he said to them, look, this is fine, but I have an issue with something. And of course they were like, okay, obviously curious as to what this could be because it was only 5 lines. And he said, this last line, you go girl, he says, I wouldn't say it like that. That's not proper. I would say, your turn lady or something like that. And they were like, okay, because he didn't understand where they were going with the film, because he's a legend.
Let's put a pin
and they
in
were just very happy he was willing to do this.
5 lines.
He says,
Maybe
right,
could have done that.
Let's just press record. And they said they allowed him to say it several times. And they said, no, it wasn't going to happen. So they obviously went back in and they said, look, it's just not what we're after. Could you just try the original line? And he was like, okay, yes, of course, this is what's written. And yeah, so, and it works.
That line sets up the rest of the movie because obviously he's got quite a posh Shakespearean voice.
Yes.
Takes you into what this film's going to be at that point.
Yeah, you instantly know exactly the tone of the film. The minute the muses interrupt him and say, we'll take it from here, darling. And he just goes, you go, girl.
And the fact it's not something he would normally say.
No.
It sounds uncomfortable at the same time.
Because it's like, oh my God, did Charlton Heston just say that? I know. And the last 2 characters in this part, because I've included the muses in the music section.
Yes.
So Pain and Panic. And they are voiced by, so Pain is Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah.
He's a character in Scrooged, the Bill Murray one. But his voice is so distinct. Like, I've heard that voice in loads of stuff. Yeah. Panic is voiced by Matt Frewer. I think I've written that right. Frewer, yeah. And he is the next door neighbor dad in Honey, I Shrunk Kids. He's in Dawn of the Dead and Watchmen. And again, he does loads of voice work. Music.
Don't sing.
Stephen, it's inevitable.
It is inevitable. I was singing to this last night.
Yeah.
Luke was asleep next to me, and I was like, "Superhero."
All songs written by Alan Menken and David Zippel. Alan Menken also wrote the score to this.
Isn't this his last one as part of the Renaissance? So his next film is Home on the Range.
Was it Home on the Range?
Yeah. Bless it.
I do like the music in that though, so.
And Tangled. Was it Tangled he did?
And Enchanted.
Enchanted.
Right, so the songs. Obviously, it begins with the gospel truth. So we've got 3 versions.
Oh, no, it's a different one. Sorry.
Yeah, so we've got 3 versions. So we've got the prologue one, which is back when the world was new.
And that's the world's first bitch.
Yeah. Seem impossible, that's the gospel truth. And then you've got the Hades one, which is he ran the other worlds. And then you've got the growing up one. That's what it's called, which is
Young Herc was mortal now.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
But he did not drink the last drop.
Thing. So I do apologize.
Thank his lucky stars.
Game is a
Yeah. Hey, I pretend I'm a part of that muse group all the time when this film's on.
Do you know what? I gave up trying to sing when every time I sang in the shower, Celine Dion and Whitney Houston couldn't reach the notes that I was written. Who's the professionals here?
So then we've got I Can Go the Distance.
Yes.
Then we've got One Last Hope, Danny DeVito's first time ever singing. Yeah. And then we've got Zero Hero.
You're on your own there.
Yeah. Who'd have thunk? Gladiator, Hercules.
Remember, 3 lines and we have to pay.
Oh, stop. You're ruining my moment, Stephen. And then we've got I Won't Say I'm in Love.
One of my favourite Disney songs.
Yeah, I love this song. It finishes with A Star Is Born.
On the shadow from the mountain top.
A star is born. Yeah, and then the end credit song. So we've got 3, and depending on what country the film was shown, depending on what song you got. So in America, they had Michael Bolton's version of Go the Distance, which is, oh my God. Thank God they finally got him back, like, to do a song, because as we found out, he should have done A Whole New World.
I kind of like the Roger Bart version.
No, Michael Bolton's version's better. Oh, yeah. But I grew up with Michael Bolton, so I kind of have a soft spot. Then in Sweden,
yes,
you might have gotten Belinda Carlisle's version of I Won't Say I'm in Love.
I have heard that.
Yeah, apparently there's 2 versions. One's like a dance version.
I've heard a dance
Again, it depended what Scandinavian country.
No, it sounds like it's got a beat in the background. The one It sounds like, you know, when people do a remix, but it's basically just the lyrics with oof, 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 oof in the... If I'm thinking of that one.
Yeah. In Latin America, they would have had Ricky Martin's version of Go the Distance and Tatiana's version of I Won't Say I'm in Love, who are the Spanish voices of Megra and Hercules.
Yep.
And then in the United Kingdom.
Yes. Oh, we had the best ones.
We had the Lost Song. Yeah, the Lost Song, the one that was removed, that was cut. And it was sung by Stephen Gately from, if people don't know, an Irish pop band, boy band called Boyzone. And the song is Shooting Star.
He was one of my first crushes.
Aww.
I was devastated when he died.
I bet, yeah, I was. It just came out of nowhere.
I was going to grow up and...
And it was in Greece.
I was going to be with Stephen Gately. That was it. That was just my purpose in life. That
I mean, at least that's a realistic crush for you.
So I'd seen him perform as Joseph in the
Oh,
Technicolor,
yeah.
and that was like an awakening for me. And then when I found out he was gay, I was like, this is fake. I'd have been.
You know what, Stephen? That's exactly what I think when I find out that my crushes are single. I'm like, oh yes, there's a chance.
And then he died, and
I know.
But yeah, I was devastated, absolutely devastated. He was my soulmate.
Oh, he was the one.
He
Well, you've
was,
got Luke Donovan instead, so another Irishman.
no, but I didn't have
By
that
name.
14. So yes.
So the muses. Right, so we've got Talia, Melpomene, Calliope or Calliope, Terpsichore or Terpsichore, and Cleo.
Yes, and with the easy one to say.
Yeah, very quickly. So Talia is voiced by Roz Ryan, who is again just like a voice and TV roles. So she does a voice in Teen Titans, and she has been in General Hospital.
I've got her as the voice of Cake in Adventure Time, and to keep it on Disney, Miss Bertha in Raven's Home.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah. Melpomene is voiced by Cheryl Freeman, who is currently in Blue Bloods, Doctor Death, and has been in Law and Order. So she's like when I looked up her, like she's even won like awards in her TV appearances. So she's, I think, the most well known in regards to on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Calliope is voiced by Lillias White, who is in The Grinch, Jim Carrey one. She's also in New Amsterdam, which is currently on Netflix, and Russian Doll. Right, so Terpsichore, maybe? Yeah, that's voiced by LaShawns, who is, again, in Law & Order, Blacklist, and she was in Help. And last but not least, Cleo is voiced by Vanessa Thomas, who is a jazz and blues singer. She was also in the musical film Nine with Nicole Kidman and Daniel Day-Lewis.
So she's done a lot of work music-wise, as in writing and things, but she worked on the film Anastasia.
Oh, that's a good one.
Bit of a link.
Yeah.
Originally going to be cast as the Muses. I think this is just one of those facts that everyone knows now. Used to be really interesting, but people just know it. The Spice Girls.
I know, but it's one of those where I just find it really hard to believe. Apparently, it's because they were asked to sing a song. So it was obviously going to be like for the record, like because they had just come out of nowhere and they were a huge hit, you know, at that time, 96. And obviously, you know, whoever was in charge of the musical side of the company, Walt Disney Records, they must have thought, oh, we need to get these girls to sing. And because they were a girl group, so it could have been that one of the Muses songs might have been what they were going to get them to sing, but on the end credits. And from there, the idea then developed, and it was like, well, why don't we get them to do all of these songs? However, they had to decline because of scheduling conflicts, most likely because of their tour.
You see, I think having the Spice Girls in that role, and because the Spice Girls, I know they broke up, got back together and whatnot, but they have lasted. The name Spice Girls, their music and everything. Like you can ask a child now and they know Spice Girls, or they'll know a song. I think it potentially could have been a really good idea. I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they went the route they did because the music's just perfect. But you know, like when I watch them in concert, you just see them and what could have been. I think it could have been a really tight and funny and really. I think although it's a boys' film, traditionally seen as a boys' film, I think that would have given it a really good stamp. This is a girls' film. This is girl
I
power.
just didn't think, like, don't get me wrong, I'm a massive fan, but like, I'm sorry, but they're not that amazing vocals singers to have pulled off any of these songs.
No, they wouldn't. But then they wouldn't have done them in gospel. They would have done them in Spice Girl.
Well, yeah, but then even then, the songs would have been ruined.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am so glad it didn't happen.
I do think that if we'd have got the Spice Girls version, I think we still would have said, you know what, that was really good.
Well, Jerry, Mel, Melanie, Emma, Victoria, if you're listening, okay, do us a favour. And, when the next time you get together, whether it be, Easter or Halloween, just do a little snippet. Sing one of the songs from Hercules so we could get an idea of what it might have looked like.
So, next time you round the Beckhams and they've bought one of those £2.50 disposable barbecues.
Or the next time you're in Tesco.
Yeah. Just, do a little thing near the
Show us, come on.
Section. Oh. That's what I want. I'm going to message them.
Okay, good. Someone has to. It's like Celine and Michael need to do a whole new world. We need it, people.
I don't think we're worthy now of that version. I think, to quote, the human world, it's a mess.
Musical facts.
Mm-hmm.
Right, during production, Meg was originally given a ballad titled I Can't Believe My Heart. But Ken Duncan, the supervising animator of Meg, pointed out the song, was out of character for Meg. And so Alan and David later composed, I won't say I'm in love. The directors, so they decided from the inception, so from the start, that they didn't want to use obvious traditional Greek instruments or musical tones, nothing like that. They didn't want it to be, it was their idea straight away to incorporate pop and gospel influences into the songs. Ron has explained that the reason being is he felt that, gospel music is very exhilarating and it's often associated with hope, idealism, and larger than life things. This seemed to be the perfect kind of music for our muses because their traditional role is to tell of the gods' heroic accounts. Mm-hmm. However, moving on to the next fact, Alan Menken objected originally to the use of Black females as the Greek muses because he was worried it would be too similar to the girl group he had in Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, yeah.
I can see
I get that.
He's coming from. But luckily, obviously, Ron and John said, no, we don't want a Motown feel. We want gospel. So when they said that, he was like, oh, right, okay, right, I can do that. At the end of the song, I Won't Say I'm in Love. Now, I tried to hear out for this, right? And I'm not convinced.
La, 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 la.
Yeah. It's claimed that they are singing the tune to Kiss the Girl from The Little Mermaid. I don't hear it.
So I don't hear the main bit, but at the end of Kiss the Girl, they do a sha-la-la-la kind of note.
Yeah, there is a... there is a sha-la-la-la, but...
I think that... Yeah.
That's the only similarities, that they use the same words, but I didn't feel it was the same tune. But... So the song One Last Hope. Menken composed it as a lively, comedic, vaudeville type tune, contrasting with the general gospel theme of the movie to suit the skeptical character of Phil. Like I mentioned earlier, Danny DeVito had never sung professionally before. So Menken asked him to sing it in like the half-spoken style of Jimmy Durant, which came out obviously perfect. The way he sang, you don't really notice that he's not singing.
Perfect. Again, I must admit, I think everything in this film's almost perfect.
Yeah. Oh, you're giving it away, Stephen.
No, I know.
Yes. So when I listed the songs earlier, there was a song that was cut, Shooting Star. So this was going to be prior to him singing Go the Distance. And on the Disney Expo thing that I watched earlier today, they showed the real storyboard animation with Roger Bart singing the recorded version, and they put it together for the audiences. So yeah, so in that he's singing at his mum and dad's farm, and the donkey is there in the background. Yeah. To me, it's too similar sort of sounding to Go the Distance. Yeah. So I'm kind of glad that they did cut it. But obviously, us Brits get it at the end.
Yes, we do.
And my last musical fact, which is, just a little one. Before Alan Menken was given the job, because David Zippel was hired first.
Okay.
Okay, the lyricist. Stephen Schwartz was supposed to do the score.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving on.
I know, I'm sorry, but
it's a soundtrack.
It's one of the best soundtracks. There's not a bad song in it. There really isn't. You can sing along to every single one. And the fact that, it gets you dancing, you can't help but sing along. But there's little things that he does in the terms of the score. Just give me goosebumps.
All of the songs are on my Disney playlist, but I also listen to this as an album.
Mm-hmm.
The same as Wish and Beauty and the Beast. So, moving on. I've just got like a few random facts. Bit of a history lesson for us now.
Okay.
So when we've got the Hydra.
Yeah.
Hydra. So in the original Greek mythology, the Hydra is actually a serpent snake kind of creature, lives in a river, and the cave with the boulder is where Hercules buries the head of the Hydra. Because it's when the Hydra's head's cut off, 2 grow back, not 3 as it is in the film. Depending on how many heads the Hydra had, it took between 6 and 14 hours to render 1 frame of that. In that scene, the 2 boys, "Gee, you sure are strong, mister," says, "Call 1X11 or
IXII
911.
Yes.
Also, and it comes up twice in the film. Phil says it twice, but in the first time, the main time, he goes 2 words. I am retired.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's 3 words. However, in Greek, and I cannot pronounce it, but here we go. It's "emi syntaxichos." Basically, it's 2 words in Greek. I am retired.
Right.
In the scene where he meets Phil, he bangs his head on the mast of Argo. Yes. And obviously goes, "Oh, mind your head, that's the mast of Argo." So in Greek mythology, Jason and the Argonauts rides on the boat, the Argo, and the mast falls on him, and that's what kills him. Yes. A little bit of a hint. Also, as mentioned, is the Golden Fleece. However, the story of Jason is set 2 generations after Hercules.
Oh, okay.
So there is absolutely no way that Philoctetes would know who Jason is, because he wouldn't have been born. The Trojan War was also after Hercules. So when Hades makes a joke about 1 horse, it's wrong. It's not happened yet. Yeah. When Herc tells his dad, "And I killed a Gorgon," he couldn't have. There's only 1 Gorgon that could have been killed, which was Medusa. And in Greek mythology, this Gorgon was killed by Perseus. Although ran concurrently with Hercules at the same time, it's a bit mean of Hercules to kind of take credit for the thing. And the Titans were actually the parents to some of the gods, not villains. Oh. In the original story of Hercules, Hades is also not the villain.
Okay.
Mother Hera is the reason, and she puts him on the 10 challenges of Hercules. And I believe that all of the challenges that Phil sets him up doing are based on different challenges of Hercules.
Okay.
However, at the Water Guardian, when he first meets Meg,
oh yes, the one that she's trying to get on Hades' team.
That is the last beast that Hercules defeats in his 10 challenges, which just so happens to be at the end of his training.
Okay.
In Thebes is basically New York. Phil uses lyrics to New York, New York. And Hey, I'm Walking Here is from a film called Midnight Cowboy.
Yes, it is. Dustin Hoffman.
Yes, I've not seen. This is the first Disney hand-drawn animated film to use Skywalker sound. That's all I kind of have like random facts as such. But hidden Mickeys.
Okay.
So most obvious one is Scar. He's the rug, and obviously in Lion King, Zazu says he would make a good rug. Ron Clements and John Musker are working on the archway that the young Hercules smashes into at the beginning when they go and he drives with his dad and he almost knocks down the pots and whatnot.
Yeah.
Meg says a couple of rodents looking for a theme park when
yes.
those. This is a hint to Mickey and Minnie.
Right.
Two rodents looking for a theme park. Went over my head, not gonna lie. I Won't Say I'm in Love. The muses appear as busts. Those busts are in the same layout as the lineup of the singers in the Haunted Mansion. Hades, quote, "It's a small underworld after all." Is a
yes.
It's a small world. The sheep in the tornado is a homage to Twister in 1996.
Yes.
And Hercules' training also references the 1984 film The Karate Kid.
Yes, because he does the...
Yes.
Yeah, with the one leg up and the arms out. Yeah.
At the parks, I didn't get a lot from the park. They are featured in shows, and Hades comes out at Halloween, but it's rare. But there are opportunities for meet and greets with Hercules, Phil, Pain and Panic, Meg, and Hades. So you can meet them. I've not met any of them.
No, I've only ever seen them on like special nights that they do in the parks. So like they've just recently done the 90s night in Disneyland. So I think they like do that sort of thing.
When I met Gaston for the first time, I had on my top Hercules. And he's like, I know that fella Hercules. He's not as strong as I am. But at the same time, I was having a photo taken with my arms around like a tall, muscly, handsome man. What else he said. So it could have been very insightful. But not for me, it wasn't. And there is a fan speculation. It has been rejected by Ron Clements, but there is a fan speculation. Hercules in Greek mythology is Triton's cousin, as I've already said. That's true. Triton's cousin is obviously Ariel. The boat that Ariel goes to visit at the beginning of that film, where they're attacked by a shark, is assumed to be Elsa and Anna's parents' boat that they are shipwrecked on. This boat, because it doesn't contain remains of people, it is assumed that the parents basically escaped and were marooned on a desert island, to which they gave birth to a son called Tarzan. And that's because all of these people all look the same. In Frozen, Rapunzel turns up, and in Tangled, Pinocchio is real. He turns up, he's in one of the shots. Going back to The Little Mermaid, Sebastian is in Aladdin, featured as one of the genies thing. And Flounder is depicted in Moana. I'll get there. I'll get
Right, okay.
The Beast is featured as a toy in Aladdin, and Belle is featured in Hunchback of Notre Dame. So is Pumbaa. Pumbaa is from The Lion King, which Scar appears in, and Scar is a rug in Hercules, who is referenced in a song in Encanto, which means all those films fit in the same Disney universe.
No, not having it.
No.
But whoever spent the time
Working all
of that out.
It's actually, yeah. The Elsa and Anna's parents being the boats in The Little Mermaid does make sense, though, because it's the same.
Yeah, well, yeah. Scandinavia.
In the background is.
But I never thought that The Little Mermaid was ever set in the North Sea. I always visioned, even in the cartoon, that it was the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Because it was warm.
Yeah. And the Calypso music. Like,
yeah. It was never in my mind set in Europe. But so does that mean if
don't go into detail, I just
Poseidon's son's daughter, so that's a second cousin to Hercules, Ariel?
Once removed.
Once removed, okay.
It also means that the reason why none of this works.
Well, it's completely different timelines.
Well, apart from that, is gods cannot be destroyed.
Yeah.
If Triton is a descendant of
son of a god, yeah.
He was a god as well. And it is stated that Ursula is Triton's sister.
Yeah.
So how did Ursula die?
Yeah, exactly. So
it also doesn't explain Ariel's mum.
No.
In Greece, it was meant, Disney suggested that it could have an open air showing at one of those big arenas, but the Greek government declined. The newspaper at the time stated it's just another case of foreigners distorting our history and culture just to suit their commercial interests.
Oh.
Because of this, the film was renamed Hercules Beyond the Myth, or in some places, Beyond the Myth of Hercules.
Okay.
In Greece. There was a sequel planned, which featured Hercules and Meg and their son, and they were going to go for the Trojan War. It was cancelled. John Lasseter cancelled all the sequels in 2006. There was a Hercules animated TV series, which ran for 52 episodes between 1998 and 1999, to which they produced a direct-to-video package film in 1999, which was basically 3 episodes of the TV series, which Hercules basically just said to Meg, I remember when I was a kid, these things happened to me.
Oh, God.
Yes, that happened. It was called Zero to Hero, and it should have been the other way around. A stage adaptation was announced in 2019 and will debut in the UK in something like 3 months' time. Which I'm looking forward to.
Yes, because you got tickets.
And a live action remake was announced in 2020. And just because I think this will stir up some memories, it was released on VHS on the 27th of April 1998. And just 15 days later, I unwrapped that on my birthday. I remember getting it.
Oh.
Did you have the VHS?
Yes.
So I just wrote this down because I thought it was a thing. But at the beginning of the VHS, there was a teaser trailer for Mulan. Trailers announcing that Peter Pan and Cinderella and Winnie the Pooh's Most Grand Adventure were out on VHS. Lady and the Tramp was coming out on VHS, and there was a George and the Jungle trailer and a Flubber trailer. That is a moment in history. Everything on that list we've talked about, apart from Flubber and George of the Jungle, but that whole thing
have been mentioned.
Yes, they've been mentioned. Flubber's one of my favourite.
Yeah, like Flubber.
DVD on the 27th of March in 2000. Book came out in Blu-ray on the 15th of September 2014, and they are all UK dates. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and all those on the gender spectrum, is that.
Well,
Apart
I
from
just want
to.
I just want to mention that this film, when it was released, 3 months later, or actually no, it could have actually been around about the same time. So obviously it was June in America that was released, and in the September of that year, the Disney store in Aberdeen opened, and Hercules was there and cut the tape.
Oh wow, look at you.
I know, but I never actually got to see it up close, because by the time we got there, the shopping centre was, oh my God, it was packed, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So I don't actually think I saw the Hercules guy. And
Flown in from Paris.
And
to sunny Scotland.
Yeah. But what they did do is to help with, which was a great idea. I mean, I'm pretty sure they did this with all the openings, but where it was opened in the shopping centre, to help with crowd control, they put up a stage and you could meet Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Pluto, Donald, and I'm not sure if Daisy was there or not, but the Fab Five were definitely there. So while my mum queued up to get into the shop, I took my sister and my cousin Shannon in the queue, and we queued up to see the characters. And it was a huge thing. I've got photos.
See, I remember the McDonald's toys, and I remember the VHS, but by the time this was kind of happening, I was 8 years old, and it was Pokemon for me. I stopped enjoying Disney, and because I'd not really enjoyed Pocahontas or Hunchback, Hercules was almost like, oh, I'm glad I've got it on video and I'll watch it. And I enjoyed the music, and I knew the songs, and I enjoyed it, and I'd watched it again, but I was getting a bit too old. Because as I say, Pokemon came along, and then Shrek came along, and it was Disney would just looked very dated at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I was 12. I think I was more like I had the stationery, I had a bit more of that sort of stuff. Holly had the Megra outfit, the dolls, the toys, pajamas,
I never had any. I've made up for it now. I had a Hercules mug. I've had my Hercules baseball jacket. I have a Meg doll, which is not mine. It's for the little one when they arrive. However, at the minute, they have not arrived.
It's yours.
And then Christmas ornaments and pins. Yeah. But I've appreciated this when I revisited them. So when I worked at the Disney store, and it was out, and I got it on DVD, and I watched it, and I really enjoyed it.
Am I right in saying that your score will be quite high then, Stephen?
I wouldn't say quite high. What's yours?
Oh, mine's a 5.
Yeah, mine's a 5.
I think this is the first time since Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, which I think is the Beauty and the Beast was the first time ever, wasn't it?
That what you gave a 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, I watched it. I mean, I remember seeing it in the cinema, and I remember the opening of the film instantly when the muses interrupt Charlton Heston. I knew I was going to like the film. I just knew it. And I love the soundtrack. It's definitely one of the best. It could be the best.
There's no crap song in it.
No, and it's not like old fashioned. Yeah. It's still quite current. Yeah. And yeah, the fact that you can listen to the score.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I think this is Alan Menken's best, not Hunchback.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Hunchback, as you know.
Yes, we know.
It is one of the best up there. I remember a colleague at work a few years ago said, "Have you ever seen the film Hercules? Is it any good?" I was like, "Just put it on."
Yeah. We've got likable characters. There's
Yeah,
nobody that we don't like. Megra, she's got girl power. She's not a damsel in distress, which is the running joke.
yeah,
We've got a brilliant villain. We've got our sidekick animal as well as our comedic
yeah,
sidekicks
yeah,
between Phil and Pain and Panic. Love the look of the film. I love the pop culture references and the comedy. This was really the first time I think that they really made an effort to entertain adults in regards to the comedy.
yeah.
They
Because
had it with the genie, but that was just one character, whereas all of them in this film had
yeah.
moments for adults. I mean, even Zeus. So,
Oh, yeah. I think at the time it was a bit like, oh, it's just another kids' film.
no, this is.
But now there's been a bit of a renaissance of the Renaissance. And you've got people like in Hercules, Emperor's New Groove, that
Mm-hmm.
era. Obviously, we've just had the 25th anniversary of Tarzan. Just before that, it was Mulan. People are looking at these more
Yeah.
and appreciating because of Disney Plus, because they can go out and they can
Yeah.
just put it on. Oh, I've never seen that, but I heard of it. Bang, it's on. Oh my God, that music's amazing. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's so funny. And yeah, Hercules just ticks all the boxes. And if it was brought out now, it would be a smash hit.
Yeah.
Because
I really hope the musical is a success.
yeah, I do. I don't know how they're going to do it, but yeah, I'm sure it will be.
Because I
I
definitely think this is one of the most underrated in
oh
regards to how good it is. And
yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's loads of underrated films, but this is so good.
yeah.
And yet it doesn't get the credit.
I can't say anything bad about it. I really enjoyed it last night. Yeah, 5 out of 5.
Woohoo!
Fives across the board.
On that note, so thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Jamie and Stephen Show. We hope you remember the gospel truth. And while you're at it, please leave us a review. And remember, you can follow us on all the socials.
Not Twitter.
Yeah, not that one.
No, not that one.
Not that one. All right. Bye.
Ta-ta for now. TTFN.